Hey everyone, I'm going to do a video on Bakasana right now, which is the crow or crane pose. I have 9 levels and this is level 4. And in the video, I don't go over the details of how to do Bakasana. That's what I'm doing now, so that in the video you can just flow with it. So I'll demo really quick. There's 2 basic ways to do Bakasana. One is a more passive, less effort, where I'm using very, very little, if any, muscular strength. I'm simply driving the weight down my elbows into my wrists with my knees. And the second variation, which is more of a handstand prep that you'll see in Ashtanga, would be with like straight arms looking forward. You can still have bent arms here, but it's more effort, especially in the legs and arms. Ideally, or eventually, the goal would be to straighten the arms, look forward. Okay. So, in the middle of a yoga practice, your wrists would be warmed up after doing a few sun salutes. If you're going to practice Bakasana not in the middle of a yoga practice, then it's important to warm up your wrists. Any kind of wrist stretches, I mean, you can be your own judge. If you feel a stretch in your wrists, it's probably stretching your wrists. Other things to do would be open and close the fists rapidly many times. You can do this in different orientations of the forearms. Arms can go wide, you can go over the head. Until you start to feel your wrists fatigue. You don't want to go beyond fatigue, but you feel it warm up, shake it out. You can do little finger extensor exercises. The extensors are on the back of the forearm. So as I resist opening and closing my fingers, that's a good one. And making fists and going up and down, in and out. You can change the orientation again, or rotations in both directions. Maybe figure eights. Those are all good warm-ups, and I'll show you something at the end too. So imagine you have 4 corners on your hand, and the magic knuckle is the base of the first hand. And so in any arm balance or handstand, most of the weight needs to be, or most of the focus needs to be on the base of the index finger. And I want to grip with my fingers. If I have straight fingers, that's okay, and you'll still be able to do the hand balance. The problem comes when you maybe someday lose your balance and you need to regain it. If your fingers are extended, it's much harder to use your finger strength, and you might end up actually rolling over a finger, and that could hurt. So having the fingers engaged, pull the fingertip pads towards the palm. The tendency here is to lift the palm as I do that. I want to keep that first knuckle down in the ground, but I'm gripping with the fingertips, such that if I came around and was pulling on your fingertips, I wouldn't be able to lift them. And especially the thumb and pinky are pulling towards each other. Okay, that gives me a very big handle, a strong handle on the ground to be able to maneuver myself while I have weight. And one last feature is the position of the shoulder girdle and the spine. So a very common movement in yoga that you'll see is something called cat-cow. The cow is when I drop the belly, arch the back, inhale, look up. Cat is when I exhale, raise the spine, look in. So this shape here I want you to become familiar with. I push out tremendously through the arms, round the spine and tailbone, and looking in. This is the crow pose if I lift my head. That shape is the crow pose. Okay, so going into the first variation, into my squat, there's a little nook behind. I should look up exactly anatomically what this is called, but there's a little nook in the back of the elbow. That's where my knee is going to be placed. Again, I grip the ground, I lean forward, and my elbows are bent. This is crow pose. I don't have to lift my feet to be doing the arm balance. If I feel weight in my hands, I'm looking forward, rounding my spine, I'm doing the crow pose. Maybe I try to lift one foot, other foot, maybe both feet. Ideally, the feet are touching each other, either heels, toes, or both. That keeps my body more symmetric. If the feet are apart as I balance, the tendency is to lean to one side, engage one side more, and so on. The feet together keeps things symmetric. If there's any fear, or if you're just trying this for the first time, here are some options that might make you feel more comfortable. You can step on the block, or a stack of books or something. This gives your hips a little elevation and it's easier to come into the pose. I can also put a pillow in front of me in case I were to fall forward, I fall on the pillow, it's not so catastrophic. It's the same thing. Bend the elbows, knees in the back of the elbows. Pointing the feet before I enter the pose helps give me that little extra lift. I might even come to the toe tips. And then here, and if I fall forward, then at least I fall on a pillow. Okay, so on to the second, more challenging variation. We need to go over something called a carrying angle. So if I'm standing right now, I'm standing on my knees, I could stand all the way up. It's the same thing, as long as your hands can just dangle without touching anything. My palms are faced in, and without moving my humerus, the upper arm bone, I open the palm to the front. So again, I don't move the upper arm bone, I open the palm to the front. Now notice, are my wrists directly under my shoulders, or no? And the answer is no. For me, there's an angle here, where the wrists are wider apart than my shoulders. And that angle is called a carrying angle, as if I was carrying a briefcase or something. Some people are really wide out here. Some people are directly straight down. Their arms just hang straight down. They have no carrying angle. This distance between my palms is the distance my hand should be in the crow pose and in a sun salute for optimal alignment. It's possible to get away with straight under. You're doing handstands and you're pulling your shoulders out of the socket, you can get away with straight under. I focus a lot on alignment in my yoga classes. There's a distinction between a gymnastics handstand and a yoga handstand, for me, just for me. In a yoga handstand or an arm balance, my hands obey the carrying angle. So you'll see in the video, the lead sequence that this is a promotion for, that coming into the crow pose is done through a sun salute. And so as I go through my chaturanga, my upward facing, downward facing, my hands are wide. The wider my carrying angle, the more I turn my fingers outwards. This alleviates pressures on the wrist. And then on an inhale, I hop forward to prepare for crow. So one other feature that we should know and understand is the squeezing in and up of the knees. So if I sit on my butt and plant my feet, and I reach forward between my legs. Maybe this is where I am, maybe I'm way far forward. Either way, I should feel this engage. The front of my hips and my ribs, obliques, squeezing the knees in farther back behind me. In addition to that, I'm squeezing the knees in together, pressing against my arms. There's an arm pressure there. Once you get the idea of this motion, I'm rounding the spine just like in cat pose. And I'm lifting the head and looking forward. Once you get that, maybe you balance on the tailbone. Again, I'm squeezing the knees in towards the armpits and in towards the midline of the body. So back and in. Reaching forward, round the spine, look forward. Point the feet, kick yourself in the butt. Here's the crow pose, upside down. Okay. So I obey the carrying angle. Or don't. You don't have to. If you don't do yoga every day, it's probably not a big deal. If, like me, you do yoga 5-6 days a week, if you don't obey the carrying angle, you may start to accumulate chronic injury. So just do what you want, and if your wrists start to hurt, then maybe refer back to this video about a carrying angle. So I'm in my squat. I'm reaching my shoulders as far forward as possible. That's still comfortable. I tuck the elbows in under the shins and I come to the tippy toes. This gives me the elevation that I like. And then I lean forward with bent arms. Now in some variations, like in the Iyengar system, I keep the hips low and look forward. In a more handstand prep, I lift the hips, again look forward, but I'm squeezing the knees in and up in both instances. You can have bent arms. I'm still rounding the spine, looking forward, gripping the ground with the fingertip pads, or maybe you'd like to try to straighten the arms. Okay, so in the video, as I'll show here, I come through my sun salute, exhale through chaturanga, upward facing, downward facing, hop forward, exhale into a squat, inhale up to the crow. 5 breaths. And then exhale to come down, and in the video then we go through some other motions. And so that is the crow pose. Namaste, ninth one.